Commander Rhea Davidson stood at the viewport of the stellar research vessel Horizon, watching the ethereal dance of aurora lights above Titan's surface. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything the cosmos had to offer. She was wrong. "Commander, we're picking up unusual energy signatures from the surface," Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through the ship's comm system. "They're unlike anything in our database." Rhea's heart quickened. This was exactly what they'd been searching for, something new, something unprecedented. "Plot a landing course, Lieutenant. I want boots on the ground in 30 minutes. The descent through Titan's thick atmosphere was turbulent, but Rhea barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on the growing energy readings on her tablet. Whatever waited below was powerful enough to penetrate miles of ice and rock. Their landing craft touched down on a vast plain of metallic ice. Rhea led her team of 3 across the frozen surface, their footsteps crunching in the perpetual twilight of Saturn's largest moon. The energy signature led them to what appeared to be a natural formation of crystalline structures, but as they drew closer, Rhea realized nothing about this was natural. The crystals pulsed with an inner light, forming patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. "Dr. Wilson, what do you make of this?" Rhea asked her team's xenogeologist. Before Wilson could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. The crystalline formation began to shift, its segments realigning like a massive puzzle solving itself. A doorway materialized, leading into the heart of the structure. "Command should be notified," Wilson suggested, but Rhea was already moving toward the entrance. "Send the coordinates back to the ship," she ordered. "But this needs immediate investigation." She knew it wasn't strictly by the book, but 15 years of experience had taught her that sometimes the most important discoveries required breaking protocol. The interior of the structure defied explanation. Corridors of transparent crystal stretched in every direction, each one containing what appeared to be star maps etched in light. The air was surprisingly breathable, leading Rhea to remove her helmet despite her team's protests. That's when she heard it, a melody so faint it might have been her imagination, drawing her deeper into the labyrinth. Her team followed, their instruments recording everything, but Rhea barely noticed them anymore. Something was calling to her, specifically her. In the heart of the structure, they found a chamber that seemed to capture the essence of the universe itself. The walls showed moving images of distant galaxies, and in the center, suspended in a column of light, was a figure that took Rhea's breath away. She was humanoid but clearly alien, her form composed of what appeared to be living crystal, with streams of stellar energy flowing through her transparent body like blood through veins. Her eyes opened, revealing swirling nebulae within them. At last, the being spoke, her voice carrying the harmony of distant stars. "After a century of waiting, you have come." Rhea found herself stepping forward, despite her training screaming at her to maintain distance. "Who are you?" "I am Zyra, guardian of the Stellar Archive, and you, Rhea Davidson, are the one I have waited for." The crystalline being descended from her suspension, her feet touching the ground with impossible grace. "How do you know my name?" Rhea demanded, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. Zyra smiled, an expression that sent ripples of light through her crystalline form. "Because 100 years ago, I saw you in a vision. You are the bridge between our peoples, the key to preventing a catastrophe that threatens both our civilizations." "That's impossible," Rhea argued, but even as she spoke, she felt a resonance within her chest, as if something long dormant was awakening. "I'm just an explorer." "You are far more than that," Zyra responded, reaching out to touch Rhea's shoulder. At the contact, Rhea gasped as images flooded her mind, visions of a dark force consuming entire star systems, of ancient guardians fighting a losing battle across the millennia, and of 2 figures standing together against the encroaching void. "The darkness between stars is returning," Zyra explained, her voice heavy with urgency. "My people, the Crystalline Collective, have held it at bay for eons, but our power wanes. We need humanity's help, we need your help." Rhea's team had their weapons drawn, uncertain how to respond to this unprecedented situation. But Rhea felt something she couldn't explain, a certainty that transcended logic or protocol. "Why me?" she asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "Because you carry within you something unique, a resonance with the very fabric of spacetime itself. My century of waiting was not just for any human, but for you specifically." Zyra's form shimmered with what appeared to be emotion. "You are the first of your kind to possess this gift since your species began reaching for the stars." The chamber around them pulsed with energy, and new images appeared on the walls, diagrams of ancient technology, star maps marking locations of vital importance, and scenes of battles fought long ago against an enemy that devoured light itself. "I know this is overwhelming," Zyra continued, "but time grows short. The enemy stirs, and we must act quickly if we hope to prevent the fall of both our civilizations. Will you help me, Rhea Davidson?" Standing there in that impossible chamber, facing a being who had waited a century just to meet her, Rhea knew her answer would change everything, her life, humanity's future, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. But as she looked into Zyra's stellar eyes, she felt something else too, a connection that transcended duty or destiny. "Tell me everything," Rhea said, and as the words left her mouth, the crystals around them sang with a harmony that echoed across the stars. The Horizon's command deck had never been so silent. Rhea stood before her crew, Zyra's crystalline form radiating gentle light beside her, as she finished explaining their mission. Admiral Thorne's hologram flickered with static, his expression unreadable. "Let me get this straight, Commander," Thorne said, breaking the tense silence. "You're telling me that humanity needs to join forces with an ancient crystalline species to fight some kind of cosmic horror, and our only hope lies in collecting fragments of a powerful artifact scattered across the galaxy." "That's correct, sir," Rhea responded, standing straighter. "And time is of the essence. The void entropy grows stronger with each passing moment," Zyra added, her voice causing the ship's sensors to flutter. "Already, entire systems at the galaxy's edge have gone dark." The Admiral rubbed his temples. "And you're sure about this, Davidson? 15 years of exemplary service, and now you're proposing we divert resources to chase, what exactly?" Before Rhea could respond, the ship's lights flickered. On every screen, patterns of static formed into images of distant star systems being consumed by an impossible darkness. Zyra's form pulsed with urgency. "This is no simulation," she said. "These are real-time images from the outer reaches. The void entropy feeds on energy itself, light, heat, even the atomic bonds holding matter together. Only the stellar core can contain it, and its fragments must be reunited before it's too late." Thorne's hologram wavered as he studied the footage. Finally, he sighed. "Davidson, you'll have operational autonomy. The Horizon is yours for this mission. But I want regular reports, and at the first sign this threatens Earth's security." "Understood, sir," Rhea cut in. "Thank you." After the briefing, Rhea found herself in her quarters, studying the star charts Zyra had provided. The crystalline being stood nearby, her presence filling the room with a soft, comforting glow. "Your people took that better than expected," Zyra observed, moving closer to examine the charts. Rhea smiled wryly. "Humanity has learned to adapt quickly. First contact, interstellar travel, and now cosmic horror, we're getting used to our universe getting bigger and stranger." "And you?" Zyra asked, turning to face her. "How are you adapting to learning you carry within you the power to reshape reality itself?" Rhea's hand unconsciously moved to her chest, where she could feel a new warmth pulsing in rhythm with Zyra's light. "I still don't understand it. You said this power has been dormant in human DNA for millennia. Why did it manifest in me?" Zyra's form shimmered with what Rhea was learning to recognize as emotion. "The universe has its own wisdom. Perhaps it chose you because of your curiosity, your courage, or—" She paused, her stellar eyes meeting Rhea's, "your capacity for connection. Something unspoken passed between them, a resonance that made the star charts flutter. Rhea cleared her throat, trying to focus on the mission. The first fragment is in the Carina Nebula? Yes, Zyra confirmed. In what your people call the Mystic Mountain. The journey will be dangerous, the Void's agents will be expecting us. Then we'll need to be prepared. Rhea activated her comm. Lieutenant Park, set course for the Carina Nebula. Dr. Wilson, I need full spectral analysis of the energy signatures we're looking for. And someone find me everything we have on quantum entanglement weapons. As the crew acknowledged her orders, Rhea felt the ship's engines rumble to life. Zyra moved to the viewport, her crystalline hand resting near Rhea's on the ledge. Your adaptation to command is impressive, Zyra observed. My people spent decades debating how to approach humanity, fearing you weren't ready. But watching you now. We're full of surprises, Rhea replied, acutely aware of how the light flowing through Zyra's form seemed to reach toward her own hand. Though I have to admit, this is all moving very fast. Time is relative, Zyra said softly. I waited a century for you, yet now that you're here, every moment feels accelerated. Perhaps that's the nature of. She trailed off, her form flickering with colors Rhea hadn't seen before. The ship's alarm suddenly blared, interrupting the moment. Commander. Park's voice came through the comm. We're detecting multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Energy signatures match nothing in our database. Rhea was already moving. Battle stations. All hands to combat positions. She turned to Zyra. I'm guessing these are the agents you mentioned. The void entropy corrupts all it touches, Zyra confirmed, her form hardening into something more angular, combat-ready. Those ships carry beings who've embraced the darkness, believing they can control it. As they raced to the bridge, Rhea felt the power within her surge, responding to the threat. Then let's show them what happens when darkness meets light. The battle that followed would become legend among the Horizon's crew, the day they watched their commander stand beside a being of living crystal, their combined powers turning the tide against ships that seemed built from shadows themselves. But for Rhea and Zyra, it was something more, the moment they realized their bond went far deeper than destiny or duty. As the last enemy ship retreated into hyperspace, Rhea caught Zyra studying her with an intensity that made her heart race. What is it? A century ago, when I foresaw you, Zyra said carefully, I thought I understood what our connection would be. I was wrong. This is, more. Before Rhea could respond, the ship's sensors detected another anomaly. The journey to the first fragment was just beginning, but already both women knew that whatever lay ahead would test not just their powers or their mission, but the growing force between them that seemed stronger than gravity itself. The Mystic Mountain loomed before the horizon, its stellar nursery clouds twisting like ancient spirits through space. Rhea stood on the bridge, her newly awakened powers allowing her to sense the currents of energy flowing through the nebula. Beside her, Zyra's crystalline form pulsed with anticipation. The fragment lies within the densest part of the formation, Zyra explained, her stellar eyes fixed on a particular point of light. But the void's corruption has already begun to spread here. Rhea noticed it now, patches of unnatural darkness eating away at the nebula's brilliant colors. How do we reach it? We'll need to take a shuttle, Zyra replied. But Rhea, there's something I haven't told you about the fragments. Before she could continue, Lieutenant Park interrupted. Commander, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations. Something's emerging from the dark zones. They watched in horror as ships materialized from the patches of void, twisted vessels that seemed to be made of solidified darkness itself. But it was their commander that made Rhea's blood run cold. On every screen appeared a face that was both beautiful and terrible, a being that looked like Zyra's opposite, composed of crystalline shadows. Sister, the being's voice resonated through the ship's systems. I've been waiting for you to arrive. Rhea turned to Zyra, whose light had dimmed noticeably. You know her. Nixis, Zyra whispered, her voice heavy with ancient pain. My twin. Once the greatest guardian of our people, now the first to embrace the void. The void doesn't corrupt, sister, Nixus's voice purred. It elevates. Shows us truths your precious light blinds you to. Her dark eyes fixed on Rhea. And you've brought me such an interesting human. I can sense her power from here, raw, untapped, so full of potential. Rhea felt a cold touch brush against her mind, but Zyra stepped between them, her form blazing. You will not have her, Nixus. The cycle ends here. The cycle? Rhea asked, but there was no time for answers as the void ships opened fire. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human military history. The Horizon's conventional weapons proved useless against vessels made of living darkness, but Rhea and Zyra's combined powers created shields of pure light that held them at bay. We need to reach that fragment, Rhea shouted over the chaos. Lieutenant Park, you have the bridge. Keep them busy. Racing to the shuttle bay, Rhea's mind spun with questions. You were going to tell me something about the fragments. What was it? Zyra's light flickered as they boarded the shuttle. Each fragment requires a sacrifice. A merging of energies that changes both bearer and crystal forever. I didn't know how to tell you. That collecting these fragments would transform me. Rhea guided the shuttle out into the nebula. Change me into something not quite human. Yes. Zyra's voice was barely a whisper. The power you feel now is only the beginning. Each fragment will make you more like me. Rhea's hands tightened on the controls as they dove into the stellar nursery, void ships in pursuit. Is that why you really waited for me? To transform me? No. Zyra's response was immediate, her light pulsing with emotion. I waited because the universe showed me someone whose heart could match my own, whose spirit could stand against the darkness. The transformation is necessary to save our peoples, but it was never my goal. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Rhea understood something that transcended words. The connection between them wasn't about power or prophecy, it was something far more fundamental. A blast from one of Nixus's ships rocked their shuttle, breaking the moment. They plunged deeper into the nebula, where newborn stars cast rainbow light through clouds of stellar dust. At the heart of it all, a crystal shard pulsed with familiar energy. There. Zyra pointed. The first fragment. But Nixus's flagship had followed them in, its dark crystal hull absorbing the light of creation itself. Her voice echoed through their minds. Did you tell her the whole truth, sister? About what happened to the last human you chose? Rhea's heart skipped a beat. What is she talking about? Don't listen to her, Zyra pleaded. She twists everything with the void's poison. Oh, but this poison shows such interesting truths, Nixus laughed. Like how many humans my dear sister has guided to these fragments over the centuries. How many she's watched transform and fade away, never quite strong enough to complete the cycle. You're lying, Rhea said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. Rhea, please, Zyra reached for her, her crystalline fingers leaving trails of light on Rhea's skin. What I feel for you, it's different. You're different. The fragment floated before them, its power calling to something deep within Rhea's being. Around them, the battle between light and shadow painted the nebula in impossible colors. And in that chaos, Rhea had to make a choice, trust in a connection she felt in her soul, or listen to the shadows of doubt. Her decision would change everything. In the heart of the mystic mountain, surrounded by the birth and death of stars, Rhea made her choice. She reached for the fragment, her hand intertwining with Zyra's crystalline fingers as they grasped it together. The resulting surge of power turned the nebula into a kaleidoscope of light. No. Nixus's voice shattered through their minds, but it was too late. The transformation began immediately. Crystal patterns spread across Rhea's skin like frost on glass, her blood beginning to shine with stellar fire. The pain was excruciating, but through it all, she felt Zyra's presence anchoring her, keeping her human consciousness from being overwhelmed. Hold on to who you are, Zyra's voice guided her through the metamorphosis. Let the power flow through you, but don't let it consume you. When it was over, Rhea opened eyes that now held galaxies within them. Her body had become a hybrid of human flesh and living crystal, pulsing with the same ethereal light as Zyra's form. But her mind, her memories, her heart, they remained her own. Impossible, Nyxus whispered, her dark ships hanging motionless in space. The others, they all shattered during the transformation. How did you? Because she wasn't alone, Zyra said, her light harmonizing with Rhea's new radiance. I didn't just wait for her, I loved her. Through time, through space, before I ever knew her face. The others. I tried to guide them, but duty and destiny aren't enough to anchor someone through this change. Love is. Rhea turned to Zyra, understanding flooding through her. The visions you had a century ago, they weren't just of me finding you, were they? No, Zyra admitted, her form shimmering with emotion. They were of us falling in love. Of two beings from different worlds choosing each other across the infinite expanse of space and time. That's what Nyxus never understood, the power isn't in the transformation itself, but in the bond that makes it possible. Nyxus's laughter echoed through the nebula, but it carried an edge of desperation. How touching. But even if you've managed this first fragment, there are still 3 more. And now you've shown me exactly how to break you. Her ships began to fade into the void. By the way, sister dear, did you tell your love what the final fragment requires? No. I thought not. As Nyxus vanished, Rhea felt the weight of unspoken truths between them. Zyra? Not here, Zyra said softly. First, we need to get back to the horizon. Your crew must be worried. The return journey was silent, both women processing the changes that had occurred. Rhea marveled at her new form, at how she could sense the currents of spacetime flowing around them. But more than that, she was aware of Zyra in a way that transcended physical space, their energies resonating in perfect harmony. The Horizon's crew was stunned by their commander's transformation, but years of space exploration had taught them adaptability. Lieutenant Park even managed a joke about updating Rhea's biometrics in the ship's computer. Later, in the privacy of Rhea's quarters, she finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. What does the final fragment require, Zyra? Zyra's light dimmed. A fusion. Not just of power, but of souls. The two beings who unite the fragments must become one entity to contain the void entropy. There is no going back from that. No remaining separate. It is a price I never dared hope anyone would be willing to pay. And the others? The humans you tried to guide before me? Never made it past the first fragment. I told myself it was for the best, that I was protecting them from a harder choice at the end. But the truth is, I couldn't bear to love them knowing what awaited us. Until you. Zyra moved closer, her light intertwining with Rhea's. With you, I couldn't help falling in love, even knowing it might doom us both. Rhea absorbed this truth, letting it settle into her transformed being. When did you know? That I was different? The moment you stepped into my chamber on Titan. Your soul called to mine across the vacuum of space. A century of waiting, and suddenly time itself stood still. Zyra's form pulsed with remembered joy. But Rhea, you need to understand, if we continue this journey, if we find all the fragments, we can never go back to who we were. We will cease to exist as separate beings. And if we don't continue, the void entropy will consume everything. Not just life, but the very fabric of existence. Zyra's voice carried the weight of eons. I would never force this choice on you. We can find another way, spend whatever time we have together before the end. Rhea stepped forward, her crystalline fingers tracing patterns of light across Zyra's form. A century ago, you saw us falling in love. But did you see what I would choose? No, Zyra whispered. That future remained clouded. Then let me clear it for you. Rhea leaned in, her light merging with Zyra's in their first kiss. It was like touching a star, overwhelming, magnificent, and absolutely right. When they parted, Rhea smiled. Set course for the next fragment. Whatever end awaits us, we face it together. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself approved of their choice. The final fragment pulsed like a dying star in the depths of the Maelstrom Nebula. The horizon hovered at its edge, while inside, Rhea and Zyra prepared for what lay ahead. Their joined powers had grown with each fragment, now they moved as one, their lights dancing together in perfect synchronization. She's here, Rhea said, sensing the familiar darkness before the ships appeared. Nixis emerged from the void, her fleet larger than ever, her crystalline shadow form crackling with corrupted energy. My dear sister and her human love, Nixis's voice echoed through space itself. Come to face destiny at last. Tell me, are you ready to become nothing? Lieutenant Park stepped forward on the bridge. Commander, we're detecting massive void anomalies. She's not just bringing ships, she's tearing holes in spacetime itself. Through their connection, Rhea felt Zyra's fear, not of Nixis, but of what awaited them beyond these final moments. The fusion that would erase their individual selves, creating something entirely new. Something that had never existed before in the history of the cosmos. Whatever happens, Rhea sent through their bond, I choose this. I choose us. The battle erupted like a supernova. Void ships clashed with the horizon's enhanced weapons, while Rhea and Zyra fought side by side against waves of darkness. Their combined light carved paths through Nixis's forces, but the dark crystal ships kept coming. You still don't understand. Nixis raged as she engaged them directly, her corrupt power matching their unified strength. The void doesn't destroy, it transforms. Join me, and we can become something greater than light or dark. We already are, Zyra responded, her light harmonizing with Rhea's. Together, they pushed back Nixis's assault, but the void rifts were growing, threatening to tear reality apart. The fragment, Rhea called to her crew. Get us to the fragment. Everything else is a distraction. The horizon plunged through the chaos, taking heavy damage but staying true to its course. Around them, space itself began to unravel as the void entropy fed on the battle's massive energy expenditure. They reached the fragment just as Nixis caught up to them. The dark crystal being's face showed something almost like sadness. Sister, please. Once the fragments are united, there's no going back. You'll lose everything you are. No, Zyra said softly. We'll become everything we were meant to be. Rhea and Zyra moved as one, their partly crystalline hands clasping the final fragment together. The power surge was immediate and overwhelming. Light exploded from the point of contact, engulfing all three beings in its radiance. In that moment, Rhea experienced everything, every moment of Zyra's millennia of existence, every second of her own life, every possible future that lay before them. She felt herself dissolving, her consciousness merging with Zyra's in a dance of light and love that transcended physical form. I love you, were her last words as an individual being, echoed by Zyra's own declaration of love. Then they were one. The entity that emerged was neither human nor crystalline, but something entirely new. It contained all of Rhea's determination and humanity, all of Zyra's ancient wisdom and power, and the love that had bound them together across time and space. Nixis stared in wonder at what her sister and the human had become. What are you? We are Dawn, the being answered in a voice that rang with harmonies of light. The bridge between darkness and light, past and future, ending and beginning. The void rifts began to close as Dawn's power reached out, not destroying the darkness but transforming it, bringing balance where there had been chaos. Nixis felt her own corrupt crystal form beginning to change. What's happening to me, she whispered. We're bringing harmony, Dawn explained, reaching out to touch her. The void is part of existence, sister. It was never meant to be controlled or destroyed, but to dance in balance with the light. The transformation spread across space, healing the tears in reality, restoring what was broken. The Horizon's crew watched in awe as their commander and her alien love became something that defied comprehension yet felt absolutely right. In the end, where there had been conflict between light and dark, there was now symphony. Nixus found her true purpose as guardian of twilight spaces, while Dawn became keeper of the balance, watching over both day and night. The being that had once been Rhea and Zyra never regretted their choice. Though their individual selves were gone, their love lived on in every photon of light that danced with shadow, in every moment of dusk and dawn, in every beat of the cosmic heart they now shared. They had not ended. They had become endless. The Horizon returned to Earth with a story that would be told for generations, of a human commander who fell in love across the stars, of an alien who waited a century for that love, and of how their choice to become one saved not just their peoples, but the very fabric of existence itself. And in the space between stars, in the breath between moments, Dawn continues their eternal dance, proving that love truly can transcend every boundary, even the boundary between self and other, between what is and what could be. For in the end, they had discovered the greatest truth of all: sometimes the bravest thing is not to remain who you are, but to become who you were always meant to be, together.